Hi, in this video we're going to talk about functions, and a function is a rule that assigns to each element x in a set D exactly one element in a set E. So if we want, we can look at an example, and let's just say we had a 4.0 going to an A, so this is going to be a GPA function, and we have a 3.0 going to a B, a 2.0 to a C, 1.0 to a D, and a 0 to an F. Well, this is a good example of a function. We have our domain over here on the left, and we'll call that the set D, and the range over here on the right, and we'll call that the set E. And this is exactly from the definition from mapping a set D to a set E. So what happens is we put in a 4.0 into our function and it'll output an A. We put in a 3.0 and it outputs a B, and so on. So this is definitely a good example of a function. We could also have a 4.0 getting mapped to an A and a 3.7 getting mapped to an A, and then a 3.0 getting mapped to a B and a 2.7 getting mapped to a B. This is another valid example of a function, and you see that we have two values over here that are the same, but that's okay because we have two different values over here and they are just mapping to the same one, and that's fine because if we put in a 4.0 we know we get an A, and if we put in a 3.7 we know we get an A. So this is still a valid function. Now if we try something a little bit different and we say that if 4.0 maps to an A and it also maps to a B, well, now we have a little bit of an issue because if we put a 4.0 into our function doesn't know what to output it to. So we don't know if we need to output it to an A or a B, and this is a problem for our function. In this case, this is not a valid function. And that's exactly what the definition is saying when it says that the element x in the set D in the domain has to be mapped to exactly one element in the range. So it can't be mapped to two different elements like we had here where it was A and B. We could also look at graphs of a function. So for example, this is a graph of a function, and if we wanted we could ask what is f of 3, and we would just go to the x value 3 right there, and we can see that the y value corresponding to that equals 0. We could do the same thing and say what is f of 6. And if we look at 6 and we go up to the y value, we see that it's 3. We could also do f of 0, and we can see that at 0 the y value is negative 3. So these are some good examples of domain and range ideas. If we wanted, we could say what is the domain? So what's the domain of this function? Well, you might be tempted to say that it's anything above negative 3, but we have to remember that the domain is actually the x values, so it would actually be from negative infinity to positive infinity. And the range would be from negative 3 to infinity. So just keep that in mind, that the domain is the values getting put into, so the x values in this case, and then the range is the values getting put out, so they would be the y values.